Do you ever feel alone, even when someone loves you? Have you ever shared your heart, only to realize it went unheard? When was the last time you felt truly seen by the person closest to you? Francis and Mary thought they knew each other. They loved quietly. But sometimes love is not enough to make someone feel understood. Watch closely. This is their story. Francis opens his mouth to speak, not to argue, not to complain, just to be understood. Mary is right there, but her mind is tired. Her body is present, her attention is not. He says a few words, she replies quickly. No problem, it's fine, we'll talk later. Francis goes quiet, not because he has nothing to say, but because experience has taught him that explaining himself changes nothing. Mary thinks the conversation ended. Francis knows it never started. This is how emotional loneliness begins, not with shouting, not with insults, but with words that fall on busy ears. Sometimes, the most painful silence is created while two people are still talking. Francis wasn't angry, just tired, because when effort goes unseen, the heart starts whispering instead of speaking. Mary assumed if they're smiling, they must be okay. Francis assumed if they cared, they would notice. Both were wrong, both were silent. Emotional loneliness isn't about being ignored. It's about being appreciated for appearance instead of effort. Sometimes, love doesn't need fixing, it needs noticing. Francis carried it again today. Not bags, not responsibilities, feelings. Mary laughed at something small. Francis laughed too, but inside, questions piled up. Unasked and answered, silence can feel safer than honesty. Because speaking risks rejection, but silence slowly turns love into labor. Mary thought, they'll tell me if something's wrong. Francis thought, I'll speak when I'm stronger. Neither noticed how heavy quiet had become. Emotional loneliness begins when love asks you to carry what should be shared. Some weights aren't meant to be held alone. Have you ever smiled while something inside you cracked? Francis nodded during the conversation. Yeah, I'm fine. Mary believed it, because the smile looked convincing. It's rarely the big fights that hurt most, it's the small moments. Being overlooked, being rushed, being unheard. Francis didn't want drama, just presence. But asking felt like begging, so silence became the mask. The most painful loneliness isn't crying alone. It's smiling through pain no one knows to ask about. If this episode touches you, kindly subscribe and share your experience in the comments section. What if being seen starts with being heard? This time, Mary paused. Not to reply, not to defend, but to listen. Francis spoke slowly, not accusing, not dramatic, just honest, and something softened. Most people don't want perfection, they want acknowledgement. To know their effort exists outside their own chest. Love grows when listening becomes intentional. Sometimes being seen is simply someone staying long enough to hear you. Can you love someone and still feel lonely? Francis and Mary realized something quietly. Loneliness wasn't the enemy, unawareness was. They didn't fix everything overnight, they noticed more. Asked better, assumed less. Loneliness fades when effort is acknowledged, when silence is questioned, when presence is chosen. Yes, loneliness can exist in love, but it doesn't have to stay. Awareness is the beginning of emotional rescue. In the next episode, what happened between them will shock you. Thank you for being part of our family by subscribing to this channel. Mary almost replied immediately. She felt the urge to explain, to defend herself, to move on. But she paused before speaking. She took a second to think about what Francis was feeling, not just what she wanted to say. Francis noticed that pause. It felt like care, like he mattered. Sometimes love changes when we slow down our response and think before we speak. Francis had just one question in his heart. Do you still care about me? He wasn't upset. He wasn't trying to start a fight. He just needed reassurance. But fear held him back. Fear of sounding weak. Fear of being misunderstood. So he stayed quiet. And Mary never knew what he needed. Sometimes emotional loneliness doesn't come from lack of love. It grows when we don't ask for the reassurance we truly need. Mary listened and started giving solutions. What to do, what to change. Francis didn't ask for advice. He asked her to stay, to sit with him, to listen without fixing. Sometimes love is not about solving problems. It's about being present without leaving emotionally. You cannot believe what happened in the next episode. Mary came home tired. Francis was making dinner. The routine. How was your day? Fine. You fine. But tonight, Mary paused. She asked something different. What did I miss today? Francis stopped. What? What did I miss? Something you wanted to tell me, but I didn't ask about. Francis felt something crack open. I had a hard moment at work. Felt small. Wanted to tell you, but you seemed busy. Mary put down her bag, sat down. Tell me now. No phone, no distraction, just attention. Francis talked. Mary listened. I'm sorry I missed that. Thank you for telling me. Repair doesn't require perfection. Sometimes it's just one question asked with intention, and the willingness to stay for the answer. Francis stopped telling Mary about his day. Not because she asked him to stop, but because her responses felt automatic. That's nice, So he stopped sharing, first the small things, then the bigger things. Eventually, silence became easier than trying. Mary noticed the quiet. She thought, good, he's comfortable. She didn't realize Francis wasn't comfortable. He was giving up. Silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's a wall built one unsaid sentence at a time. Silence became their language, and neither knew how to translate it back. Mary woke early, Francis still sleeping. She thought about last night's conversation. How small the question was, how big it felt. She made coffee quietly. Left a note, tell me more today. Francis found it, smiled, texted back. Will you tell me to? Something had shifted. Not fixed, just opened. They didn't know it yet, but they'd stumbled on something. A way back to each other that didn't require grand gestures, just noticing, just asking. The repair wasn't finished, but it had started. 3 days later, Mary forgot. Came home. How was your day? Fine. Francis waited for the other question. It didn't come. Old disappointment crept back in. See, it was just a moment. Nothing changed. Francis went quiet. Mary scrolled her phone. The distance returned so quickly it was startling. But this time, something was different. Francis had felt what connection looked like. The absence was sharper now. At 10 p.m., Francis spoke. You didn't ask. Mary looked up, confused, then remembered. Oh, I'm sorry. What did I miss today? Francis almost said nothing, but didn't. I felt invisible again. Mary put the phone down. You're not. Tell me. Repair isn't linear. It's practice. Francis decided to try the question too. Next evening, Mary came home. They went through the usual motions. Then Francis asked, what did I miss today? Mary stopped, looked surprised. You're asking me? Yeah, Mary's eyes welled up. I messed up a presentation. Felt like an idiot in front of everyone. Francis moved closer. I'm sorry. Tell me what happened. Mary talked. Francis listened. Really listened. When she finished, Mary said, I was going to hide that from you. Why? Didn't want to seem weak. Francis took her hand. You're not weak. You're human. The people slowly learning to open their hearts to each other, fixing what was broken, one small moment at a time. If this story touches you, kindly subscribe to our channel and be part of our royal family.